Hey guys, good afternoon. It is currently Thursday afternoon, about 1 o'clock. I actually just recorded this video on a newer laptop that we have and didn't really work. So I'm using the good old laptop that I've had forever to do this. So hopefully this works better. But very good week one for some of us and very awful for others. A couple interesting things happened in week one. With Jeff put on a clinic for everybody, showing us how it's done. Also, myself, Sippy, and Jonathan all put up over 100 points, which makes sense. I mean, we are the founding fathers of the league, and we need to lead by example and show you guys how to actually play this game. Um, so I was very pleased with that. Also, quite a few injuries throughout the league. Injuries are always a part of the NFL and fantasy, obviously, but quite a few big injuries to star players. You got somebody like Des Bryant out for a couple weeks with his foot. You got Deshaun Jackson, Terrell Suggs, Jordy Nelson, who's been out. Quite a few injuries. Hopefully that trend doesn't continue. I don't want to have to be scouring the waiver wire just to be able to piece together a Frankenstein team by the end of the year. So hopefully not too many more injuries in week two, unless they're on Jeff's team, at which point that's totally fine. But so also Fubar, the division, I think is going to be significantly better than Snafu come the end of the year. Just a reminder that playoffs, the way that's going to work is 4 teams are going to make the playoffs out of 10. The number 1 and number 2 seed will be the 2 division winners, and the number 3 and number 4 seed will be the 2 teams with the best record regardless of division. So you could potentially have 3 from one division, 1 from another, or 2 and 2. So I think more than likely, just based off 1 week, obviously, Fubar will probably have more playoff teams than Snafu, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, it's a long season. This is only week one, so there's only so much I can really predict. But speaking of predictions, I have my predictions for this week. There are 2 games that look like they're going to be pretty close, and 3 games that look like they're going to be blowouts. And I think it's pretty much going to follow that line. The first week is myself and Mike going against each other. Dahmer's House of Ribs takes on hard mode. Mike with a disappointing loss last week when he should have won, considering Josh just really wanted him to win based off his starters and his bench. But I definitely think I'm going to win this one. Obviously, I mean, my team is superior in every way, but specifically, it's much better on the bottom half of the roster. And I've said it so many times, I'll say it again. Teams win based off the bottom half of the roster. It's great to have a stud quarterback and a good starting running back, sure. But that second half of the roster, your flex, your tight end, your kicker, your defense, your wide receiver twos, your players that aren't supposed to do well, when they really step up, that's when you get more than 100, more than 120 points, which is obviously going to be much tougher for the other team. And I think the bottom half of my roster is just better than Mike's. So I have myself winning this week pretty easily. Jeff and Josh are going against each other. Both are tied for first in Fubar, 3-way tie with me, because we all won last week. So Josh is projected to lose by 1.5 points, which is the closest margin this week. It was surprising given the outing that Jeff put out last week, but obviously ESPN projections are not always accurate. In fact, they're rarely accurate. So you can't really depend on that too much. Josh, though, had quietly one of the better weeks last week. Yes, he won, but his team only put up 80 or 90 points, whatever it was. But he left like 60 points on his bench, which a lot of people look at and think, oh, you're an idiot. But his team has potential to put up quite a few points based off of that. And not now that he knows how to start a team and he's done messing around, I think Josh could have one of the better teams and really be a force that we'll have to deal with later in the year. For that reason, now that he's started a decent team, I have him beating Jeff, which is obviously makes everybody happy. Clearly, Jeff made some kind of deal with the devil to win last week. I don't think it's gonna work for him this week. But if you see him again, Jeff, say hi to your dad for me. But I have Josh winning this week. So next is Sip and Mitch, and this is the first of the blowouts. I love the unemployed life. I can have my coffee at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So Sip and Mitch is the first of these blowouts, and I think Sip is going to take it. He's favored by 15.5 points. But also, if you look at Mitch's team, I mean, he had Odell Beckham, who was hot garbage in week 1. Literally 50 players outperformed Odell Beckham, who's supposed to be the number 1 wide receiver. And if you look at the other wide receivers in the league, most of them are performing as expected. Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, those guys are really performing. Odell Beckham just didn't, and I think it has to do with being on the Giants. They're just not that good. But it's only been 1 week. We'll see what happens. He's going against a softer team with the Falcons this week, but I still don't think he puts up the numbers that you want him to. Also, Mitch got Deshaun Jackson, who's out, and Alfred Morris is going to suffer because of that. I think the Rams are going to end up stacking the box and double teaming Garcon, and really just putting the screws to the Redskins offense. I don't think Alfred Morris puts out a good week. Even though Marshawn Lynch was able to do well against the Rams, the Redskins just aren't that good. So I don't think Mitch is going to put up the points he needs this week to win, which is, whatever. Nobody's really worried about Mitch's team anyway, so this is to be expected. Next is Jimmy and Will with a massive line of 35 points given to Will. So, reason being is Jimmy barely has enough players, eligible players to start a team. He's got Des Bryant, who's out. He's got Le'Veon Bell, who's suspended. He's got Monte Ball and Ray Rice, both of whom are free agents. And he has Stephen Ridley, who's out. So I don't even know how Jimmy's going to really start a team this week. I'm sure he'll figure it out at some point, but yeah, he's he's going to struggle this week, I think. And Will, whose team, your team name is so accurate. You really do have blue balls. I mean, you have all these total stud players that you just can't really start. So, but I think he gets back on track and ends up 1-1 at the end of this week. I think Will just has the better team, and without, unless Jimmy has a couple good miracle performances, which is possible, then I see Will taking this one. So I think he's going to end up winning this week. And then lastly, we have Kevin and John. Kevin, you have a great, really, defense and kicker. That's all I really can say about your team. My mother always taught me if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I really don't have anything else nice to say about your team. So, John has a far superior team in just about every way. Now that he's got Tom Brady, got him essentially for free. You got number 1 quarterback. You got Julio Jones, number 1 wide receiver. You got Jeremy Hill, top 5 running back. Right there, you got a stud in every position. So John's team is going to be one to really contend this year, unfortunately. But we'll see. After week 1, obviously, player rankings are only, you got to take them with a grain of salt. But I think Tom Brady's going to continue to do well. Julio Jones will. We'll see how injuries play out. One big injury to John's team, and it could really hurt him. because I don't think he has very strong supporting actors for his team. So we'll see, obviously, how that plays out. But I think John definitely takes it this week. I don't think that's going to be an issue for him, which means that at the end of this week, if you're keeping track, John will be 2-0, I'll be 2-0, and Josh will be 1-1, making FUBAR a very formidable division, definitely better than the other one, Snafu. So definitely something to keep in mind in the future. I think that somebody like me or John will end up with, or I'm sorry, John's not in FUBAR. Jeff is who I mean to say. But I'll have to play Jeff twice. I'll have to play Josh twice. So there's quite a few players that teams that we'll have to play twice. That'll make it, probably more interesting as the year goes on. Obviously, there's only so much you can really predict after week one. So fingers crossed, no injuries. I will be at the Redskins game this Sunday, so I will be unable to catch up with the guys for too much unless we're getting blown out and I leave at halftime, which is always a possibility with your Washington Redskins. So we'll see what happens there. And then Monday night, depending on how the games are playing out, we might go out somewhere. But anyway, guys, good luck this week, unless your name is Michael Winpisinger or Jeffrey Nutting or Jonathan Marks or Mike. So bad luck to everybody, really. I hope you all lose but me, even though that's not possible. And I hope everybody has a terrible week but me. And I'll see you guys next week for the next Commish report. I'll probably catch up with you guys this weekend. And that's all I got for you. All right, guys.